Did you know that during World War II, Polish soldiers actually fought alongside a bear? Yes, a bear.
In 1942, a band of Polish soldiers recently released from prisons and work camps stumbled upon an unlikely mascot, a brown bear cub.
I'm assuming that
with his
wasn't the
antics
actual
and
cub.
friendly personality, the troops took on the cub as one of their own. The bear grew and the war progressed. As the men ventured into combat, Wojtek the military bear served right by their sides, distinguishing himself enough to become an official part of the Polish military forces. Today on Weird History, we're going to find out about Wojtek, the bear who went to war. On September 1st of 1939, Poland was invaded by German military forces from the north and from the west. On September 17th, Poland was invaded by Soviet forces from the east. As a result of the invasions, more than 400,000 Polish prisoners were sent to work camps in Siberia. This double whammy on Poland was made possible by the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact, a pact which fell apart when Hitler directed German forces to invade the Soviet Union in 1941.
It just sums up that Poland can never seem to get a break, does it? It never gets a break from outsiders.
Not one to take a double cross very well, Stalin ordered Soviet troops to release those same Polish soldiers taken prisoner a few years earlier to join the fight against Germany. As these Polish troops made their way out of Siberia and into Iran, they met a young shepherd. The shepherd carried with him a sack, and in that sack he kept a Syrian brown bear cub. Makes carting around your Shih Tzu in a purse seem kind of lame, doesn't it? The bear was an orphan. His mother had been killed by hunters. The playful spirit of the cub won the troops over, and they made a trade with the shepherd. The newly adopted bear left his old life to go on an adventure with...
I just love that image. I'm going to keep this image here. How amazing is that image? You know, and we all know bears are dangerous animals, right? But this image just doesn't create that for you. This is a bear that wants to play, wants to have affection. Nice image.
With Polish troopers in World War II. The fighting men gave their new friend the name Wojtek, which means joyful soldier. A brown bear in the ranks of soldiers tends to stick out. A Syrian brown bear is a rather small bear, at least as far as bears go. As an adult, they can measure up to 4.5 feet long from nose to tail and weigh up to 550 pounds. Their fur is light brown, closer to the color of straw. The hair between their shoulder blades is often a different shade from the rest of their body, sometimes appearing as a dark stripe. And it is the only bear species known to have white claws. Very stylish, but boy do they show dirt. The bulk of the responsibilities to care for the brown bear cub fell on two men, essentially his adoptive parents, Dmytro Shaluga and Henryk Zakarowicz. Henryk, in particular, formed a close bond with the bear. In most of the films and pictures that exist of Wojtek, Henryk can always be seen nearby. Apparently, Wojtek had a helicopter parent. In the wild, a Syrian brown bear eats fruits, berries, seeds, plants, grasses, nuts, grubs, and small mammals. If particularly peckish, he will eat cultivated grains and livestock. The military was ill-equipped to care for a bear cub, so the troops made do with what they had. Wojtek was initially fed condensed milk from a bottle.
I was thinking they're feeding it beer. Just have a bottle of beer that we've got lying around. And that's an interesting point because, yes, during the war and in these situations, they wouldn't exactly have surplus food that they can just easily give away to a bear, which you would assume has a big appetite. So how they then coped, obviously some milk there, but how they coped really keeping its strength up is interesting to find out, hopefully.
But as he grew, his tastes expanded to include, well, basically anything that was available. Not a real foodie. The larger Wojtek got, the more bold he became to roam around the camp's kitchen, scrounging up a snack. In the rare moments when his military family wasn't doing military things like packing, moving, working, or fighting, Wojtek was always up for mixing it up with his human friends. Whether Wojtek was entertaining the troops or the troops were entertaining Wojtek is hard to say. In any event, he threw back beers like one of the boys. But big talk over beers was not Wojtek's style. He was a bear of action. The larger he grew, the more he enjoyed wrestling. The brown bear loved to roughhouse with men. though it was a rare soldier who was brave enough to earnestly tussle with Wojtek. No troops ever got seriously injured, but it was common for a wrestling match to end with someone's body getting scratched or someone's clothes getting shredded, and that someone was never Wojtek. Perhaps that's why most of the men prefer to watch from the sidelines. As a side note, a friend who urges you to wrestle with a bear may not be your friend.
No.
Wojtek's behavior was influenced by his peer group, who happened to be war-hardened men with advanced skills in carousing. It's a tough environment for an impressionable young bear. Wojtek adopted their habits and fit right in. He had his own mug that he used to drink beer and wine from, and when it was empty, Wojtek would look mournfully at the cup until it was refilled. He also begged for cigarettes, though he insisted someone lit them before he would accept. Typically, after one puff, Wojtek would swallow it whole. Come to where the flavor is.
The thing is, though, you've seen this throughout history in different stories. Just look at Mowgli in the Jungle Book, right? If you are raised by another species or whatnot, then you take on those traits. At the end of the day, dogs who are man's best friend, they behave in a certain way because they depend on humans to feed, water, to walk them. So they've learned behaviors that allow them to be domesticated. And this is clearly what Wojtek was doing, behaving in a way that was appropriate for the group that he was spending time with. And he'd learnt ways of getting what he wanted, because that's basically what dogs do. They're doing things to get what they want and what they need from us humans.
When the troops arrived in Palestine, they were organized into the 22nd Transport Company, Artillery Division, Polish 2nd Corps. The men, however, would not abandon Wojtek, who was immediately adopted as the company mascot. But it wasn't just a symbolic gesture. Wojtek was part of the team. One evening, while the camp was asleep, a thief crept into the compound looking for something to steal. Unfortunately for him, he awoke Wojtek, who rose to investigate. With a massive brown bear lumbering towards him, the frightened thief, understandably, forgot he was a thief. He made such a clatter that he woke the troops, and he was quickly apprehended. As a reward for his vigilance, Wojtek was given a bottle of beer. "Hey, barkeep, how about a bottle of suds for my furry friend over there?" When he was young, Wojtek traveled with the company from site to site in whatever cab of whatever truck had room. But as Wojtek grew, he tipped the scale at 500 pounds, and it was harder to find any vehicle that had room for him to ride shotgun. So he was upgraded to one of the company's recovery trucks. A recovery truck is like a tow truck, but military-sized and used to move tanks. For Wojtek, it was a traveling home, like an RV built for a bear. He spent his trips lounging on the recovery truck's bed and alleviating his boredom by climbing the crane to get a view of the surroundings. Wojtek wasn't the only animal who accompanied soldiers in the Second World War, although he likely was the only bear on the battlefield. Some animals, like anti-tank dogs, served grim but useful purposes, while others were brought to battle as a mascot. Whenever he encountered other animals, Wojtek was always friendly. The soldiers of the 22nd Transport Company loved to talk about the encounters between Wojtek and Kasia the monkey and Kirkuk the dog, two of the war's most famous animal combatants.
That is also something that's fascinating. The amount of animals that were used during the wars. For example, dogs. Dogs had multiple purposes, and quite often it wasn't a pleasant end for them. But I didn't know about monkeys. That is a new one for me. But how they would have interacted with each other, especially a bear with, say, a dog. Well, clearly, reports say that Wojtek was great with them and was friendly, but I don't know.
Consider them the A-list celebrity animals of the day. Wojtek never suffered a bullet or shrapnel wound, but he did encounter a life-threatening injury. Wojtek was once stung on the nose by a scorpion. Such an injury is often lethal. In fact, his friend Kirkuk the dog succumbed to a scorpion sting. Wojtek's friend Henrik was beside himself. He refused to leave the bear's side, doing all in his power to help nurse Wojtek back to health. For the first day and a half, the situation was critical, and it looked as if Wojtek might not make it. The soldiers feared the worst. But Wojtek fought back and against all odds overcame the scorpion's venom. Within days, he was back to his carousing ways. As the 22nd Transport Company received their assignment and was sent to the Italian battlefront in 1943, Wojtek had to be left behind in Palestine due to regulations that prohibited animals in combat. An active war front is typically not an ideal place for a bear, but Wojtek was not a typical bear.
My question would be with if, for example, Wojtek went to the battlefield, one, God, that would be dangerous because everyone in this time period is using guns. Wojtek does not have guns. He doesn't have armor, or not that I know he had armor, but how would you know, how would an animal like a bear know the difference between friend and foe? That's what I wonder. You know, it's like, for example, Lena, my little Jack Russell, she's a massive wimp, right? She loves everyone. She wouldn't have a clue if an intruder was an intruder because she just wants to lick them to death. But how would a bear know who the enemy was?
To get around the regulation, Wojtek was officially enlisted in the Polish army. He was even given his own paycheck, rank, and serial number.
Oh, wow.
This helped ensure his participation was recorded, and the world knew under which flag Wojtek served. Though there was confusion and likely a bit of aggravation about transporting a bear to the Italian battlefront, the Polish troops eventually got their way. In Italy, there were a series of fortifications known as the Winter Line. In 1944, the Germans held the western portion of that line, and the Allies determined that breaking through that line near a rocky hill known as Monte Cassino would give them access to the Italian capital of Rome.
Do you know what? We learn obviously a lot about World War II, especially in schools in England and on TV in England. I know very, very little about what happened in the war outside of, say, France, Germany, Poland, Russia, and obviously the UK, like Italy, Turkey. I know so little about what actually happened in that part of the world. I know Italy were on the side of the Germans for some reason, because of the old fascism over there, wasn't it? But I don't know enough about that part of the world during World War II.
Atop the hill was an abbey that had been converted into a fearsome stronghold. The abbey ultimately withstood 3 assaults before the Allies drove its inhabitants backwards into Rome. During one of these assaults, Wojtek's pal Henrik, serving as an artillery spotter, pulled forward into battle and had to leave his bear friend behind. Left among the men who armed and manned the guns, Wojtek refused to sit idly by. Mimicking the behavior of the soldiers around him, Wojtek began to lift massive crates of ammunition and carry them towards the cannons, disregarding the gunfire and making himself useful throughout the assault.
How did he know to do that?
By the time Monte Cassino was in the hands of the Allies, more than 70,000 men on both sides had lost their lives.
Wow.
When the chaos of battle settled, the troops were able to rest, and word of Wojtek's exploits spread. His fearless actions and loyalty in battle made him a hero among the 22nd Transport Company. In honor of Wojtek's deeds, the official seal of the 22nd Transport Company was changed to feature Wojtek marching towards cannon fire, a shell in each hand. The logo was then featured prominently on vehicles, uniforms, and the like.
That is brilliant. That is so amazing. As I said, Wojtek there helping move ammo, but no one told him, no one taught him how to do that. That's just incredible. That is absolutely incredible. He was basically one of the soldiers, wasn't he? He was one of the soldiers without looking like one of the soldiers. Just awesome.
After the war, the 22nd Transport Company moved to rural Scotland, where they were stationed at an airfield near the village of Hutton. The soldiers Wojtek had spent the previous 3 years following into battle were restationed or sent home. One by one, they came to say goodbye to their furry friend. Wojtek's battle adventures were ending, but his time in the spotlight was just beginning. Word spread that there was a Syrian brown bear nearby, and Wojtek became a local celebrity among the Scottish people. He was profiled in stories, visited by locals, and inducted into local organizations such as the Polish-Scottish Association. In 1947, Wojtek left the military. Rising from his initial rank as private, he was discharged as a corporal. He retired to the Edinburgh Zoo. There, he enjoyed a good life as beloved celebrity, doing an occasional interview and appearing on a local children's show from time to time. As the years wore on, Wojtek was never forgotten by his army pals and was visited by Polish soldiers he had served with.
Look at that face. Now, he's clearly not, but with human sort of how we like to implant human features on animals, that looks like the happiest bear I have ever seen. That is just pure joy and satisfaction in that picture. Just amazing.
As 82-year-old Polish veteran Augustyn Karolewski described his reunion with Wojtek, as soon as I mentioned his name, he would sit on his backside and shake his head, wanting a cigarette. Still one of the boys. In the wild, Syrian brown bears live between 20 and 25 years. Wojtek, for all his adventures, lived to a ripe age of 21 and passed away in 1963. So,
I want to know where that statue is. Is that statue in Scotland or is it somewhere in Poland? Because I'd love to go see that. And because now I know the story of Wojtek, the Polish military bear. That is fascinating. Thank you so much for watching. Are there any other animals in the war that you know of that you find fascinating? Please do let me know. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you want to see our Polish adventures, go to the vlog channel and you'll see them there from Gdansk and from Krakow. Make sure you go to charlieandrob.com and I will catch you next time.